All right. Hey, Richmond, welcome to the podcast, my man. It's good to see you. It's good to see that mustache going. I love it. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
We're going to use the video for this piece because I feel like people need to see this situation. Um,
Perfect.
let's get into it. Before we do that, actually, I'd like to ask a series of questions, lightning round, get to know you is real simple stuff, just so that the listener has a chance to get to know you. So we'll start
Yeah.
off really easy. Where were you born, and where's currently home for you?
I was born in Orange County, California. Was only there for a couple months, moved around a lot, and ended up in Stevensville, Montana,
Okay,
28
so
years later.
if someone doesn't know where Stevensville is, give us a little bit of a lesson here.
Yeah, it's in the Bitterroot Valley, just south of Missoula, about 40 minutes.
Okay. Are you out there on some acreage? You got some space?
Yeah, just 15 acres.
Cool.
Got all the views and everything that Montana
That's
has to
pretty.
offer. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Montana's an amazing place. Um, okay, let's keep it going here. Growing up, who do you think would who do you think made the biggest impact on your life?
Definitely I would say my dad. Um, he's in the hotel business. He taught me how to fish. He taught me how to hunt. He taught me how to see things through. And in my line of work, that's paid off, you know, more than I ever thought it would. Just sometimes you have to get gritty, and he's always had my back all the way through the ups and downs of rodeoing, especially when I was younger. And yeah, definitely, he was a huge part of where I'm at now.
Cool. And we'll get into that your profession here shortly. I can't wait. Richmond, what's one piece of advice that you tend to give out the most?
Mm. Be patient. Um, as long as you keep trying, it's going to work out eventually. And
Yeah,
I think that applies to anything.
yeah, especially in your sport, which are getting inching closer towards. I can't wait. All right, I'm gonna give you a curveball because I think you're ready for it. What's one piece? No, sorry. Let me go back a second. If you had to give a TED talk on something that you're not necessarily well known for, what would you like to talk about?
That's a tough one. Hmm. I don't know. I'll just say fly fishing because that's my next, like my main hobby
Cool.
outside of what I do.
I got a chance to experience fly fishing in the Provo River outside of Park City, Utah, not too long ago. And I don't fish much and I've never been fly fishing. And that was one of the most amazing experiences because it's quiet and you have to remain so present on the current situation. Like you can't, I mean, you can, but you've got to stay focused on what's right in front of you. And there's very few things in the world that I know of that I've experienced to be similar to that right there. Would you say that's true? Is that what it does for
Yeah,
you?
absolutely. It's therapeutic. It's like you said, you're present. You're in the moment. If you're not, you're gonna miss it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's yeah, whether it's a day fishing or a couple hours walking up and down the river, just leave the phone in the truck and go for a walk and see if you can't catch something. There's nothing better in my mind.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Okay, let's before we I because I had your wife Paige on the podcast earlier. I've got to know, how did you two meet? I don't think I got the story from her.
Yeah, so she her dad raises bucking horses in Canada.
I didn't
So
know
she was
that. Okay.
always kind of around the rodeo scene and mutual friends. And then, one day I think she Snapchatted me and asked me a question about a rodeo for her dad. And I was like, well, you opened the door. Big mistake. Uh, Little do you know, I am very persistent. And ended up going up there to rodeo in Canada. So got to see her quite a bit. And then, just like that, here we are.
Were you guys dating when she was Sochi? Was that 2014?
14. Yeah, no. I think we met after the Olympics the first time in 14, and then uh, started talking in 16.
Okay, got it. All right, cool. All right, let's talk about your work, man. Someone who doesn't know you, tell everyone what it is you do.
I'm a professional bareback rider.
That's incredible. Okay, so how'd you get into that? So you mentioned Orange County you grew up, but then you went out to Montana. Your dad was a big influence. How'd this come into your world?
Yeah, I lived in probably, I think, 7 states before I graduated high school. So
Mm,
jumping around a lot. My first big move, I lived in Alaska for 6 years, and they moved us to Texas. Skiing and the outdoors was everything growing up in Alaska. And then obviously you move to Texas and you can't ski anymore. But my family, both my mom and dad, had some sort of background with horses, and that's what I wanted to learn how to do was to ride. And so I did that. And as I got older, we always watched the National Finals Rodeo on television in December, and the PBR, which is a professional bull rider, started being on television every week. Well, as a kid, I thought that was pretty cool, so I wanted to learn how to ride bulls. So I think I got on my first bull when I was 13, and stuck with it till my junior year of high school. And that junior year of high school, I was getting sick of falling off bulls. I got on a lot of bucking bulls in my life. I did not ride very many of them. And it was just that kind of like that point, like, man, I need to make a choice. I need to try something new. This isn't working. My brother rode bareback horses a little bit in high school, and he was starting back up in it. So he had already found a place to get on some practice horses. And one day he came in my room and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to go get on. Do you want to come with?" I said, "Sure, I'm going to get on one too." He was like, "Yeah, right." I was like, "No, really, we're doing it." And so pretty much from that day forward, it caught on like wildfire. Ended up winning the Texas state championships later on my senior year. And it opened the door for me to get a rodeo scholarship to Tarleton State University. And really it's been my life ever since.
mm. Did you say a rodeo scholarship?
Yep.
Oh man, I learned something new every day. I didn't know that was a thing. So
Yep.
what did you go? You went to school after high school, and
Yep.
what was the degree? What's the
Uh,
education like there?
uh, it's a sister school to A&M. I didn't get a degree. rodeo became a little more important and time consuming for me. But I rodeoed for them for 3 years. Went to the college finals twice for them. Won second in the nation, I think, in 14.
Hmm.
But really, just such a young man's game, that if you're not ahead of the game as far as school goes, it's a really hard balance to do both. And I wasn't ahead of the education game. But rodeo is, it's a once in a lifetime kind of deal. And I had to go for it. And there's lots of talks with my dad, lots of him telling me to go back to school, and a lot of me actually having to tell him I know what I'm doing this time.
All right. I want to ask this now. Before I ask any stupid question, I always ask this just to make sure I don't ask the stupid question. And it's this. What is something that people ask you all the time about your profession, your sport that you wish they wouldn't ask so much because you're like, man, everyone always asks this. The inverse is another one, which is what's a question that really no one asks you, maybe because they don't think of it, they're afraid to ask it. Tackle those two questions in whichever order you want.
Okay, the obvious question we get all the time is how do you make the horses buck? Do you, how do you make them so angry? Do you tie up their genitals? Things like that. There is a strap that goes around the back of a horse. Most of the horses, a lot of the best ones, the greatest ones, are female. So no, we don't tie them up. And the animals are bred for this. I would compare them to race horses. They're, as far as you can look back, great grandmothers, grandfathers were all bucking horses, and the people that own them, it's their lifeblood. They spend every penny they have trying to keep a good herd of horses and make a living rodeoing with them. The other one is, do I wear a cup? No. That you would think it would help, but it would make things a whole lot worse. And the questions, I don't know. I would say, I don't know, maybe one thing that a lot of people don't know about our sport is, yeah, it used to be that, old cowboy way of doing things, go out to the bar, get in bar fights, cause trouble, go down the road, sleep in your car, and rodeo. And nowadays it's, a lot of the guys, especially my age, are just jumping on airplanes, show up to the rodeo, take care of business. Maybe it's a day off. They stop into a drop in at a gym. They have, dietitians, they have trainers, they have everything. It's really evolved. It's really evolving into a sport environment, which I think is really cool. And I think there's 7 events in rodeo, and you're seeing it across all of them.
Cool. Okay. You kind of talked about it. Let's go a little bit deeper in it. What are some common misconceptions about the sport that people have? I mean, they don't know about the sport much, but they think this happens. Like, what are some of those common things that you get that just like, man, that's not even close to being accurate?
Yeah, most of it, a lot of the negative light, I think, for our sport is um, the treatment of the animals. And if you talk to, and I think it's just because people hear it, they see it, and then they don't ask questions. They just assume, that we don't care, if a horse gets hurt or anything like that. That the time to everything from the timed event cattle to the bucking bulls and bucking horses. I think the injury rate on an animal is like less than 1% at over 1,000 rodeos a year. And it's, when something does happen, it kind of hurts everybody. Nobody wants to see that, and that's not our goal. I said there's vets on hand. All these contractors that own the bucking horses, they have, vets on hand that they'll keep a horse going just like they do, an older trail riding horse that's got sore tendons, things like that. That these guys are spending the money to get them injected, get them ultrasounded, chiropractors, everything. And the animals are really treated like athletes. And there's even fines that are around us to protect the animals. If we do something or mistreat an animal and a judge sees it, they fine us like crazy. You win the rodeo or not, you're not paying off that fine very easily. So, the respect we all have for the animals, because they're half our sport. If the horse doesn't perform and it was my fault, well, I just cost myself that opportunity. I think for anybody that has any opinion of rodeo, I would suggest asking questions from somebody that does it for a living, and we're not scared to talk about it and tell you about it. And yeah.
And the horses are going to be worth, like, I can't even imagine, like they got to be really expensive I bet. What's the typical size of an athlete? Like an athlete, like what are you? What's your size and weight? What's height, weight?
I'm like 5'10", anywhere from 180 to 190, depending on the day.
Depends on the pizza and
okay, got it. Exactly.
So is that pretty typical?
Yeah, that's pretty average, I think. In our event, it's the most physically demanding event in the sport of rodeo. We take the most strain, the most beating day in and day out. We don't necessarily have like the fear factor, like the bulls chasing and, game of inches for those guys. They're all a lot smaller, lighter build. They're more like little gymnasts than they are,
like a horse racing jockey would be just shorter, smaller, more. Okay.
Exactly. And there's definitely, guys that are 6 foot that ride bulls very well. It's just, and even in my event, 6'1", 6'2", but you have to be really good at handling your body at that, when you're that tall. Being a little more compact is beneficial for the force we take.
And I think you said you're 28. So are you kind of in the middle? Are you getting closer to older in the sport? Like what does the sport look like in terms of range of age?
Yeah. So this is my 10th year. So I'm definitely one of the veterans of the sport. but there's definitely a group of guys that have been around since I started going that are kind of 32, 34, and they're still, deadly competition. But I think what's cool is we're really the first wave of people that have really trained for this and taken it to that athletic level that there's no telling really how long a guy can go nowadays with the money that's in it, and the, the knowledge that's coming out for, guys are trying everything, to stay healthy and get in better shape and better maintenance. I think 40's attainable if a guy wants to climb on bucking horses for that long. I don't know if that's for me, but I when I talked to Paige about it, it's, probably 5 to 7 more years. We'll see how things go.
How do you keep your body healthy? Like, how do you train for this? How do you prepare, both like training on riding, but also just training your body as well?
Yeah. So basically at this point, it's, I don't get on practice horses that often. I'm not necessarily worried about my ability as a rider. It's more, do I like my weight? Every year I get older, it's harder to keep weight off and stay competitive and stay in that riding shape that I personally like. So it's, I have some great trainers out of Canada that I've worked with for the last 4 years, and we're constantly changing stuff. I might hurt my shoulder at this, last weekend. Well, I still want to train this week, but I need to do some maintenance for this. And they're constantly on hand for me, evolving, my programs and stuff. And right now we're pretty much in season. So I can't obviously train hard Monday through Thursday, go hop on a plane and expect myself to be able to ride at my best on Friday. Yep. So it's kind of a, just really unorthodox way of trying to make this work. And I think as long as you're trying, you're moving ahead. And I've been doing Paige turned me on to yoga this year, and that's been the best thing. It's ridiculous how hard that is.
Yeah.
But it's, one of those things that when I'm on the road and I might be in a parking lot at a gas station that I stayed the night in, and I wake up, get out of the camper and throw a 20-minute YouTube yoga on. And that's, definitely better than doing nothing. So
I got into yoga. I don't do much yoga anymore, but one of the first few times doing yoga, like a yoga sculpt, where you use weights, and I'm in there, I'm acting all tough. And I start like shoulder pressing 20 pounds. And I'm like, this is stupid. I can't believe I do it. And all of a sudden I am shoulder pressing the air because I am so tired. Yoga is a sneaky good workout. And especially for men, we need that flexibility to help with longevity. So good. I'm glad you're into that as someone who will be 41 here really, really soon. So that's good to hear. What does the season look like? So if people don't know, when does it start? When does it end? Is it every weekend type thing?
Yeah. So it's kind of confusing as far as how they lay it out, but it's basically it ends September 31st or 30th. Mm-hmm. And it starts October 1st. So, but let's say 2021 started October 1, 2020. The national finals for 2021 is in December. So technically the 2022 season will have already started. Mm. But so guys can win money through October, November. And I don't rodeo during those months. I just take those months to enjoy, a little vacation and start training for the national finals in December. And then I usually start back in January. But as far as the opportunity, there's rodeos just about every weekend or weekday. And we're about to get into our busy season. The winter time's a lot of indoor rodeos, and they're big money. So you're at San Antonio for 4 days and you ride 5 times. If you make it all the way through, then you might go to, San Angelo for 3 days or something like that. Whereas what we're doing now is once June, July, August, September get here, most of them are just 1 day, 1 ride, or they'll be 5 days long, but you only enter it one day. So you could potentially go to 6 rodeos in 6 days, 5 days. Sometimes you can work 2 with the same day. It's really however you want to do it. And we've, after doing it this long, you get a good kind of schedule in your mind of how you want to work things, what travels well, where you've done well in the past, where you haven't. So it's kind of, we don't have anybody to tell us how to enter. It's all up to us. We pay the entry fees, we set our schedule. And obviously for the bigger rodeos, you've got to have money, one, to qualify for them. Mm-hmm. And then you get in. But yeah, I think I usually enter about somewhere between 75 and 90 rodeos a year.
Wow.
And I compete at, I would say, 65 to 75 of them.
Wow. That's a lot. I had no idea. Okay. Gnarliest injury you've had?
Was in the bull riding. Shattered my left leg when I was like 13. Both bones just like in pieces. I've been very, very fortunate in my career as a bareback rider, torn MCLs, meniscus, shoulder stuff that's just maintenance at this point. One of those deals that we'll look at that when it's all over kind of things. You're better off not knowing.
Yeah.
But as long as you're doing the maintenance for it and it doesn't hurt, then it's not there. So
yeah, I had
really fortunate.
I had a splinter the other weekend, so I think I know how you feel with some of these serious
absolutely.
injuries. Okay, so I'd love to go watch a rodeo, and I'd love to go watch. So how do I sound? Teach me a little bit. I'm asking as a curious learner, and for the listener as well. How do I sound intelligent when I go to a rodeo and I watch it? Like, what could I say that would make people like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about? And what should I not say, or what's the incorrect thing to say?
Well, we don't say cowboy up.
Okay.
It's not a thing.
Okay.
If it's rough stock you're watching, I would say these guys need to bear down. They need to lift on their rigging. If it's timed event, I don't even know. I don't know enough about timed events to give you that.
I feel like I got a few things in my tool belt now to say. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. As long as I don't end whatever I'm saying with ing and just kind of just do the accent thing. Okay, got it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. What's the longest you stayed on? What is your personal best? And when you go out there, like, what are you shooting for? Like, is there a time?
So,
what's the thing?
Yeah. So you have to stay on for 8 seconds. That's all 3 rough stock events: saddle, bronc, bareback, and bull riding. One hand in the air. You can't touch yourself or the animal, or it's an automatic disqualification. In the horse events, you have to, the first jump out of the chute, you have to mark. It's called marking out. So you mark the horse out, which is where you put your feet above the break of their shoulder into their neck, and your feet have to stay there. They're not allowed to come out until after that horse's front feet have hit the ground on the first jump. That's basically giving the advantage to the animal, but it's also to your advantage to do it because that's how you pick up all their timing from the get-go. So it's not necessarily about time. From that point, once you make an 8-second ride, the judges will give 50 points for the horse, how well it bucked, and 50 points for how well you rode it. That's your spur stroke, how exposed you were, how in control your upper body was, how high in the neck you were placing your feet, because the higher you go towards the mane, the easier it is for you to make a mistake. And they're picking all that up really fast. They've got a short window to kind of get it all absorbed and make a good decision. So sometimes I ride them for 8.1 seconds. Sometimes I ride them for however long it takes the pickup man to come get me. It just basically we're going for a high score. So usually a winning, a ride that's going to win money, it may not be first, is going to be, 80 points and up, depending on where you're at. I've been in the finals of San Antonio and before and been 92 and a half in 1 second. I've been 89 and not won a penny. It just really depends on how good the guys are, how good the horses are, and how it works out. Like last week, I won both rounds at Corpus Christi. I was 89 to win the first round and 91 and a half to win the second. So it really just kind of depends on it really depends on the horsepower.
I learned a lot right there. I did not know that there was that much subjectivity involved in the scoring. So that's fascinating. All right. So anyone who's listening, they've got to find you on Instagram. You put up some great video work. And so I want to shout that out quick. So make sure you guys grab the link in the bio and follow. But when you're getting ready, and I saw you recently put a video up of this not too long ago, you're getting ready and whatever you want, whatever it's called, a pen, whatever. What's going through your head?
It's behind the chutes.
Behind the chutes. Okay, got it.
Or in the locker room. Honestly, it depends on the day. If I've got a big scary drag, and we have 5 different groups of horses, of how we classify them. But for the most part, the program stays the same. It's honestly reminding myself of that. Nothing changes. You've got to trust in your training and know that your body's going to do it when you're out there, because it's a completely subconscious game from the time I leave the buck and shoots. If you're trying to think about what to do, that horse is ahead of you, and you're on the ground and in trouble before you know it. So it's really just, usually a lot of cutting up and joking with the guys and not trying to think about the task at hand. And, I would say my routine is my biggest thing. Whether I have an hour and a half to do it or 20 minutes to do it, if we're running late or trying to work 2 rodeos the same day, it's, stick with what works. And that, it's a lot of activation and stretching. And I feel like once my body's ready, then my mind's right there with it. And there's nothing to think about after that. Try not to let fear get in the way and go do your thing.
That's cool. I've always wondered what to do. It sounds like you've got routine. Sounds like that's a part of it. Do you think every rider is a little bit unique? Does everyone kind of have their own thing? Do some people like to be more joking, lighthearted because that's their personality? Some guys are maybe really serious. Does everyone just kind of it's based on their personality, or does everyone kind of do their little routine?
Everyone's definitely different. I would say everybody kind of at this point has some sort of, stretching and something to get their motor running and do that. I think guys shut off the joking and lightheartedness at different times before they ride. And there's some guys that get themselves so wound up and say things to themselves I wouldn't say to my worst enemy just to get themselves in that place, which that's your thing. Cool. No judgment. I'll be yawning. That's my thing. I know I'm in the right place if I'm standing there yawning, as I'm about to get, a couple minutes out of getting on it. If I'm there, then I'm in the right headspace and my body's ready, and there's nothing to worry about after that.
When you're out there and you're riding, it's 8.1 seconds, whatever it is. Does it feel like it takes that long, or does it feel like it's longer? Does it happen really fast? Are you able to slow it down that much?
Yeah. Sometimes it's, I'll just keep riding for 10 because I don't want it to be over, because that horse is that nice. There's a lot of times the whistle blows and you're like, oh, thank God, about time. Was wondering if the lady up there was going to press the button. And sometimes the buzzer doesn't go off, technical malfunction. And at that point, I think after you've been on so many, you have a mental clock. of around 8 seconds and where that is. And yeah, I definitely think in the last couple of years, I've been able to really slow things down in my riding to where I'm not necessarily thinking, but I'm seeing everything. I'll catch a mistake and not think about what to do, just do it. But I'm seeing it all happen. And I think it just takes time. Obviously, the sooner you can learn to do that, the more successful you're going to be. But it's definitely it makes it a lot more fun now. But like I said, still sometimes you'll get on a dragon that's all there and fast and throw something at you you've never even felt before, and you'll get off and make the whistle, and you'll come back and they'll say, a great score. Well, you still want to see the video because you have no idea what just happened. Those definitely sneak up and get you every once in a while.
I don't even know what happened. I just blacked out.
Exactly.
that's it's totally random. I don't even know how you're insurable, like health insurance wise. Like, how do you even get health insurance in your profession?
We're thankfully insured through our organization.
Okay.
Minimally. And then it's just expensive at that point after that.
Yeah, it just is what it is. It's like, what do you expect, right? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. Let me kind of close with two last questions. We're recording this partway, almost halfway through 2021, but what are you really excited about for this year? And then on the flip side, what are you really challenged by in 2021?
Really excited for obviously the year to really get going here and get into rodeo mode, where it's just every day is rodeo to rodeo, and then the off days are something to be cherished and enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
But really just to get in that groove. Right now we're just kind of getting on one or two every weekend, and you go into the weekend excited, and then you leave the weekend being like, man, I wish I had more to go to. You just got to be patient, but I'm in the best spot I've ever been this time of year, as far as money won and my spot in the standings. So I'm really looking forward to carrying that on through the year. And I'm, I guess, challenged by not the idea, but the idea that for 10 years now I've been chasing a gold buckle in a world championship, and it's a little scary that that's a very possible thing this year. And that's okay. Every time I've been really, really scared, it's worked out good. So we'll call it nearsighted.
Yeah.
About that opportunity.
That's cool. I love that. I love the honesty there. That's awesome, man. I'm cheering you on. I've met some guys that are Chip Ganassi's NASCAR pit crew team. I don't really get into racing, but
right.
I get into it now because I got to know the people behind the sport and behind the story. It just makes it so much more enjoyable, and you want to cheer them on because you get a chance to meet them. So I've never watched any of this on TV, but you might catch me watching it now, and maybe the weekends will line up where we could watch one in person. It'd be fun to cheer you on.
Absolutely.
And I have to acknowledge, like, the last name. Like, how amazing is it that your last name is Champion? Like, that's the coolest thing ever. So that's got to be a lot of fun. I'm Mr. Champion, please. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Richmond. I appreciate you taking the time for this, and I hope that you continue your success in the sport and health and longevity. And I really hope that you continue to keep the mustache as well. So put a good word in for Paige for me.
Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate it, man.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
You bet. Take care.